Hey guys, welcome to the Fenced In podcast with Jennifer Rogers. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Today's episode is sponsored by The You Within, which is my book and my company, The You Within. If you have a company and you would be interested in sponsoring a podcast, please reach out to the Fenced In channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share for more content like this. Today, I am interviewing Saffron. Saffron, welcome to the Fenced In podcast. I'm so happy to have you here today. So tell us about yourself. Who are you? Where you're from? What's your story?
Hi. Yes. So my name is Saffron. I wrote a book. The title of it is My Name is Saffron.
Okay.
Um, I I was born in, just to kind of give a quick review of who I am. I was born in Cottage Grove, Oregon.
Okay.
Um, a very, very small town.
Okay.
um, kind of out in the middle of nowhere. I grew up in a town called Springfield, Oregon. Also a very small country town. Um, I have parents that owned a business, a janitorial and carpet cleaning business. So I grew up cleaning office buildings and people's carpets, and I did that my entire life.
Okay.
Um, but that really instilled a business work ethic in me from day one. I have a younger brother. Um, we grew up in Springfield. I went to the University of Oregon, which is in Eugene, Oregon. A
Hmm.
lot of people are familiar with University of Oregon just due to sports and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
Um, I have two undergraduate degrees, and then I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I just continued going to school, and I got a master's in business. Um, After that, I went into medical sales, and I was really successful in that. And from that experience, I seen a whole world of um, medical type things that could really benefit people. And I had this background of growing up, with seeing how to own and run a business. And I had a master's in business, which is all about business administration and management. And I'm like, after doing the medical sales for a handful of years, I'm like, I could do this.
Hmm.
So I started telling some of my accounts, and I'm real young, I'm in my 20s.
Okay.
And I'm telling some of my accounts, I'm like, hey, how did you get into this? I want to start a business. And they all thought I was crazy and way too young. But they entertained me because they seen me every week. So
Yeah.
a little, yeah, a little bit here and there, they would kind of talk to me of how they did it and how they got into it. And one of my accounts eventually had a small little they had many locations, but one of their locations was a small little satellite location in Vancouver, Washington, which is just over the bridge from Portland, Oregon,
Hmm.
basically Oregon, technically Washington though.
Yeah.
And and they were like, we want to sell our little satellite office. It's going under. They were real honest about it. They're like, it's super in the red. We just don't even want to deal with it anymore. But with your background and you being so enthusiastic, it might be something you want to take a look at. So I did.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, it's super failing.
Yeah.
But I have all the contacts with the hospitals and the doctors, and that's how you get business. And I'm like, it's in my industry that I'm super trained on. And I just, and just being young, I'm like, oh, I can do this. So I ended up taking over their small little failing satellite business. And over time, I turned it into, within 10 years, I had 5 locations in 3 different states. I was in
Wow.
Washington. Yeah, I was in Washington. I was in Oregon, multiple locations in Oregon, and then in Northern California. And I was expanding in Northern California. Um, And I was super passionate about what I was doing. And,
So
you
what
know, it wasn't,
exactly were you doing?
yes. So I specialized when I was a medical sales representative. I specialized in, a number of different things, compression garments, orthotics, prosthetic knees, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Um, and in that, um, they there was a new, now this was a long time ago, like 20 years ago, but at that time, there was a new product coming out in the market. It was not new in Europe, but it was not as well known in the US. And the company I worked for took it on.
Okay.
And so we got trained on it. And what that was is it was specifically for patients who had what's called lymphedema.
Okay.
And it's excessive swelling due to lymph glands being damaged or removed, usually removed through surgery due to cancer,
Okay.
a lot of the times.
Okay.
And but it can be from damage too. Even, if you hit a group of lymph nodes up against a sharp corner on a table, that could, and I've seen it, it could damage your lymph glands, and now you have an issue. So there were various different reasons, but a lot of what we've seen was due to cancer treatments and cancer surgeries. Obviously, if there's any trace of cancer going in your lymph nodes, they're going to take them out.
Right.
But taking out lymph nodes now, they're basically our garbage disposal system in our bodies that removes all sorts of kind of toxins. So if you don't have those lymph glands there, or if they're not working properly, now you have this buildup of fluid that's toxic to the body that normally would be flushed out. So we were trained on how to custom make and custom measure these very specific lymphedema compression garments that would help reroute that toxic lymph fluid, to other lymph nodes that were working, so that there wouldn't be this toxic buildup in the body.
Okay.
And we would work specifically with what were called lymphedema therapists and vascular surgeons and very specific medical professionals and doctors that worked with this, and they would tell us, okay, we need it rerouted, to this group of lymph nodes. We need it this type of compression, because there's different variants of that. They would tell us what they needed. We weren't, of course, making that. That was definitely a medical decision, but we were the ones that were specialized in how to now make that. So I, as a rep, I would go around to different clinics that were my accounts, and I would train them and teach them how to do this.
Okay.
And then the more that they used my product, then as a sales rep, I made money on that.
Right.
So I became very, very focused on that, and I became one of the number one reps within the nation for that, within that company, within about a year. And so I really focused on that, and I treated it like my own business at the time when I was a sales rep. And so when I was telling all my accounts, like, oh, I really want to do this, and they would laugh at me because I was so young, but they were also like, okay, I could actually see you doing this, because you're kind of doing it now. You're representing a company, but you're doing everything that you would be doing. I mean, you're training us how to do it. So,
Right.
But the downside to it was that the U.S. at the time, I think they've become a little bit more aware of it now, 20 years later. But at the time, it was a newer concept, and they weren't, the doctors that I worked with were on board because they seen all the great benefits for their patients, because it prevented all sorts of kind of wound care needs and even amputations. It would prevent like a lot of scary stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And medications. It would prevent a lot of heavy medications and stuff too. So the medical community, as long as they were trained and understood, were typically completely on board and really excited about it. But it was the insurance companies that were not so excited about it, because here's this new product. They don't know anything about it. They're not educated on it, yet they're being asked to pay for it.
Yeah.
So I didn't understand all of that dynamic, just because I was there again, pretty young and not experienced in the insurance world. And I knew a little bit from what accounts would tell me, but I didn't know, I didn't have experience in that. So all I knew was what I was experiencing in the medical community, which was very positive. And so I
Yeah.
was excited about it. And then so when I started the business, I'm like, okay, here we go. It was a huge challenge to get contracted as a preferred provider with all these insurance companies, but it did end up eventually happening. It was not easy, but there was a lot of pushback from the insurance companies, not initially, but as I grew. When I was still really small and I just had one or two locations, it really wasn't any type of issue. But as I started to grow, like my third, fourth location, they really had a problem. The insurance companies really started having a problem with what I was doing, because they were now having to pay a lot more money for a service and a product that they did not understand. And that's kind of when my life started changing, not for
Okay.
the better.
Okay. So what happened?
So I was about 10 years in to owning the business, very successful, a lot of hard work. I mean, I was working 6, 7 days a week for years. I mean, I think most people that own a business can be like, oh yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
how that, yeah, that's kind of how it goes. This was just a really, really very specific. I had medical professionals that worked for me, and so it was just very, very involved. It wasn't something that I could be like, well, I'm taking a few days off. See ya on Monday. That was just not how it ran. I loved what I did, so it wasn't a bad thing. But I I worked all the time. So like, what are you doing, Saffron? Oh, I'm working.
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah.
So it was about probably, I was asked this the other day, and I don't know exactly, but I would say probably about 8 years into the 10 years of owning the business, it started to have. I know that that's in hindsight that
It
I'm seeing that
it
cracks.
it started to have what? You froze up.
Oh, sorry about that.
Okay.
It started to have, probably about 8 years in. There was started to be some issues with the insurance company, and I can see in hindsight that there was like cracks starting to happen. But at the time when I'm living it and I'm working every single day, I'm not realizing those cracks that are happening. I'm just thinking, oh, insurance companies are difficult. They're
Yeah.
hard to work with. They never want to pay. I'm not really realizing that, okay, this is a problem, that there's something going on. In hindsight, I can see that, but at the time, I didn't realize. And so probably about 8 years in, when I say there's little cracks going on, what started happening is, a lot of the larger insurance companies I worked with, um, they really fought me in paying for these products. And to kind of give a little bit more insight into that and why they were having issues with it, is these were custom made. So there wasn't, in the provider and insurance world, there's usually a set price on a medical code. So if you have a pen here, just for example, this would have a medical code to it. And if you had all the medical documentation to say, I'm prescribing, I'm, filling this prescription for this pen, I'm using this medical code that is specifically for this pin and this diagnosis, there's usually a set price. Let's just say $5.
Okay.
And so I would submit it for $5 because that's the set price. I could submit it for $20, but they're going to say, no, we're only for that code. That's a $5 item. I'd be paid $5, for example. But when I'm working with these lymphedema garments, they were custom, what we would call custom made. They did not exist outside of us literally making the garment and designing it, making it, saying what materials, what certain things need to be inside of the garment to move the fluid to certain lymph nodes. It was really, really detailed. And to do the measurements, it was done in centimeters. So it was very time intensive, and it took years of understanding it. You had to have a medical background to understand how the lymph fluid was moving to design these garments. I mean, there was just the measurements alone would take, in some cases, hours. And then the patient would come back. Once we got the garment, we'd fit it. Sometimes there need to be alterations. So it was really, really intensive. Insurance companies didn't understand that. And so there was no set price. So there was no $5 pin code for this. It was, this is what I'm saying this item costs. And it would vary all the time because there was no one person had the same garment. It was very, very customized to that person and what their medical diagnosis was and what was going on. So the medical insurance companies, not understanding that, just all they seen was, we're giving them all these, custom codes that don't have a set price, which they don't like. And there's all these random prices in their mind. That's what they're seeing. And then they're seeing, and then they're seeing multiple clinics over the years opening, and that we're just, sending them more and more of these, what they think are, random pricing, and, do they really need custom garments? And so they got really, really strict with the paperwork, which was fine. I had to get all sorts of kind of chart notes and very specific prescriptions with the actual prescribing doctor. So a lot of times they're vascular surgeons. They're very busy. They don't have time to be writing letters, but they would, because they knew that I needed them in order to get this garment, for their patient. So these doctors would be writing literally on, because it had to be on stationery to prove it was from that doctor office per the insurance company. They'd be writing, specifically my patient, has to be seen by, Saffron's medical company. It was called Saffron Specialized Medical. For these reasons, my patient specifically needs, ABC garment for these particular reasons. And my patient has already tried XYZ treatments and they have failed. So this is like the last, resort before we do surgery or something more extreme. So in every single case, the doctors had to be writing this. I mean, it was a lot of extra work, plus the prescription. And then the insurance companies also wanted the doctor's chart notes, medical chart notes. So they had to show that they already had it in their medical records. I had nothing to do with it. Like their medical records, that the patient has already tried, these medications, have tried these therapies, have tried all these other things, and nothing else is working. That's why they're sending their patient to me for this, customized garment. So it became really intense. I mean, this wasn't like one or two patients I would get a day. I mean, we were seeing with multiple clinics, multiple patients a day, and each patient, we had to get that type of documentation from the doctor. So it really started to get intense, and that wasn't required initially, but over time, the insurance companies were trying to stop.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm not making the doctors are sending them to me. So like, I have nothing to do with this except I fill the prescription. So that so we started sending in all that documentation. Then the insurance companies, the last couple of years, just even with all that documentation, they would then deny it. They would approve it. So then I would purchase the materials to make it. I would make it. Then I would, once the patient took the product, so I'm already out of pocket as a business with time and money and all of this, and the patient is now using the product. Then I could bill the insurance company once it was approved, and then what would happen is I would bill it. So I already have it approved. I would send that approval with the bill and proof that the customer has taken it and all this, and I've paid for it and etc. And a lot of the times, majority of the time, that last 2 years, they would then deny it. And so that means when they deny it, that means my company doesn't get paid.
Right.
So, and this happened multiple times a day, every day of the week. We were open 6 days a week, and it with multiple clinics, and it started to become a real financial issue because this is how my business got paid. And to anyone that's ran a business, that's not profit. That is money to pay your employees. That's money to pay leases on rents. That's money to pay for product that you have to buy to be able to dispense to the patients coming in. So when claim after claim after claim started just being denied after they were approved, that's a real burden on a company. So what happened is I, of course, with that many clinics over that amount of time, I eventually, just because you have to, I had business lawyers. And whenever there was like an issue with an insurance company or anything like that, I usually just had them look at it because I'm like, this is legal stuff. I don't have time. I got to be with the patients and I got to be in my clinics. I'm just handing this over to my business lawyers. If they need something from me, they can, but they can get a hold of the insurance lawyers and they can work it out and then tell me what I need to do. So when this started happening a lot, like them not paying and me calling and trying to figure it out on my own with the insurance company, I eventually just handed it over to my business lawyers because I'm like, you guys need to like talk to them and try to get this figured out because I as a business, I've got to be paid. Like this is crazy. And so they tried to work it out amicably with the insurance company's lawyers, but that just wasn't happening. And so over time, my lawyers were like, look, we have tried. They're still not being willing to work with us. They're still not paying you. We need to sue them. We need to sue them for the amount of claims that they have approved, that we have in writing that they approved and have not paid. And so I'm like, oh my, I don't want to sue a major insurance company. Yikes. But they were like, there's nothing, it's either that or you just don't get paid, And so I'm like, well, I guess we sue them because I need to get
Right.
paid for services rendered.
Right.
So yeah. So me being still very, in hindsight, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't think that was a smart idea. But just being really naive and just thinking of normal business practices, if somebody doesn't pay you and you've exhausted all efforts to collect on payment, you're probably going to get a lawyer and you're probably going to sue them,
Right.
in normal circumstances. So that's what we did. It was a major insurance company. This is an insurance company that most people have.
Okay.
And like really big insurance company. And it's probably one of the biggest. Not Medicare, not like that, but just an independent insurance company is probably the biggest one out there.
Okay.
And so we sued them and we had all the documentation that I followed what they asked and they put it in writing that they would pay and that they haven't paid and that we've contacted them multiple times for payment. Anyways, I ended up winning and they had to pay me for services that they said they were going to pay. They hadn't. And so for a small business, it was quite a bit of money that I obviously needed to run my business. It was getting scary. And for a large insurance company, it would have amounted to pennies.
Right.
it was
So
nothing to
how
them.
much was it? Can you say how much it
Yeah,
was?
absolutely. Yeah. It was $250,000.
Okay.
And this
And
is
can you say
probably,
the insurance company?
yeah, it's, you could Google it.
Okay.
It's out there. It's Regents Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Okay.
And yeah. And so, they, they had to pay. They were not happy with it, and they took that $250,000. That was from multiple clinics. It wasn't like one clinic, and it was like from over a year's worth of time of them not paying. So some people might be like, "Wow, that's a lot of money," but no, this is multiple clinics that they weren't paying, and over like a year's worth of time. And this is money that is how I pay payroll and leases and run a business. So um, they took about a year to pay me. They made small little payments. Yeah, I know. They made small little like holding a carrot out type payments over a year. It was ridiculous because the insurance company that large, literally is pennies. Like they could have just said, "Hey, I'm really sorry. Here's your payment."
Here's
But
what we owe you. Right.
yeah, yeah, but that's not how they handled it. However, they were paying it and they did pay me. When it came down to like the last hundred, literally the last $100 that they owed, my lawyers were like, let's have a meeting with their lawyers, and let's just finalize this so both parties know it's done and finalized. It's all good. We're all in agreement. Let's just make sure, right? And I was like, yeah, that's good business practice. Let's make sure we're all in agreement. There's no misunderstandings. We're on good terms. So I meet with my lawyers in their office, and it's a phone meeting, obviously, because wherever their lawyers are, we're not in Oregon.
Mhm.
So we had a phone meeting with their lawyers, and at the end of the conversation, their lawyers said Saffron better watch her back. She has not learned her lesson. And my lawyers were taken aback, as I was, like, how unprofessional, what are you even talking about? And my lawyers replied back like, okay, you do know that Saffron as an individual, you're not paying Saffron Gustafson as an individual. You're paying her medical business, Saffron Specialized Medical, the money that you owe so she can continue running her business. You're not paying her personally, you're paying her business. So why are you bringing Saffron into this? I mean, you can say that maybe about the business, but why would you say that, about her as a person? And they literally were like, huh, they were just like very unprofessional, and we're like, yeah, okay, well, I'm saying she better watch her back. And my lawyers were just like, ooh, gosh, all right.
So
And
what did you feel about that? Like, did it scare you when you heard that?
honestly, at the time, it did not, because in hindsight, it's like, how could that not be scary? But at the time, I was just super naive to, I knew this was a very large insurance company, but I did not understand how powerful they were, and they could pull some pretty powerful strings if they wanted to, and you could get in a lot of trouble if they don't like you. I didn't know that. I was just like, I'm just going about my business. They're being me and my business lawyers, we were like, oh, when we got off the phone call, we were like making faces and like, oh, poor losers. We were like, watch your back. We were
Hmm.
kind of joking about it. Like, wow, they're really unprofessional for such a large company. And can't believe that their lawyers would actually say that, and especially over such a small dollar amount to a large insurance company. So anyways, no, at the time, I did not. I was just like, oh, my lawyers were like, they're going to pull your contract, FYI. There's no way they're going to continue doing business with you, not with that response. So
Yeah.
I would, yeah, and I knew that, and I was just like, yeah, whatever. I could still do business. There was a loophole rule with that particular insurance. Other insurance companies, there's all different rules for different insurance companies. That particular one, I could still bill claims as a non-provider, which would mean I was not contracted with them. There were some loopholes in doing that, but I still could. Other insurance companies, if that were to happen, I would not be able to bill them, but I could still do business. It was going to be more difficult, but I could still do business with them. So I wasn't, I did, it was going to be really inconvenient, but I also wasn't too
Right.
upset at the time. You know, I'm like,
So what
well, okay.
happened? Like, what get us to the point where like you realize things are like falling apart.
Yes. So at the time I had I went back and forth between Washington, Oregon, and Northern California. I had a house in Portland, Oregon that I lived at, and then I also had a condo that I leased in San Francisco because I was now in Northern California. And so I would go back and forth between my Portland, Oregon house and the condo in San Francisco, like constantly through months, like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it was cheaper. I at first was like renting hotels and stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's way more expensive. I'm just gonna, save some money and actually just get a little condo in San Francisco, and it was great. And so I was doing that. I was at when everything fell apart, like in a second. I happened to be in San Francisco, and it was really early in the morning. So I was at my condo in San Francisco, and I my phone started ringing. Now this is really early in the morning, and I'm kind of ignoring it because I'm like annoying. Who's calling me so early? And so and I was like, I'll check it later. Well, it kept ringing. So I eventually checked my phone, and I'm still in bed. I mean, this is like really early. And so I check my phone. There's a voice message. So I'm like, well, I'll listen to the voice message and then I'll call whoever back. I was thinking maybe one of my clinic managers is calling in sick. Maybe they're locked out, or there's something, right? And so I listened to the voice message, and the voice message is one of the hospitals. So there was a hospital in Oregon that I actually had a clinic inside the hospital, and that particular hospital called and left me a message, and they were like, "Oh, I'm sure you know, but the FBI is here raiding your clinic, and it looks really poorly on our hospital because they're all over the place. You need to get this cleared up now." And I'm like, "Yeah, that was the voice message. Like I knew anything about what was going on." And so I'm like, "What? I didn't hear that right. Like, no, what?" And so I listened to it again. No, they're saying FBI raiding my clinic. They're all over in the hospital, and I'm like, what in the world is going on? So I call the hospital, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just got your voice message, and what's going on here? What? And they're like, yeah, I can't talk to you, but you need to get this cleared up because there's FBI everywhere, and it looks really bad. And I'm like, trying to ask questions, and they're like, no, I can't talk to you. I'm hanging up now. Bye. And I was just taken aback by even that because I had a really great reputation. The people in the hospital loved me. Obviously, I had a clinic in their hospital. That's not, most places don't have a clinic within the hospital. They were highly, highly respected what I did and had great relationship with everyone there. And I'm just like, for them to be like, I can't talk to you, I'm hanging up. That was just that alone. I'm like, what? And so I didn't know what to do. So I looked up the phone number for the FBI, and I'm like, I'm just going to call them because clearly there's just a misunderstanding. Maybe I didn't file taxes properly. I'm just trying to think of. I have no idea. I'm like, gosh, was there a I didn't dot right or a T I didn't cross? I can easily fix this. Whatever they need, I'll just give it to them. This will get cleared up. Because in my mind, I got to get to work here in the next couple of hours. I mean, we got to carry on. I'm super naive to something like this. I'm not thinking this is now the end of my world as I knew it. I was full on fix mode. Like, whatever it is, I can fix it. There's just a misunderstanding. So I find the phone number to the FBI. They're in Oregon. I call them. They get me on the phone with a FBI agent that is actually in that hospital that's raiding. And I'm like, yeah, what's going on? What do you need? You don't need to be raiding my clinic. Just tell me what you need. I'll get it to you. I'm so confused with what's going on. And they're like, yeah, we're not only in this clinic, we're in every clinic that you have, and we're raiding every clinic that you have right now as we speak. And I'm like, okay, well, you don't need to do that. Just tell me what you need and I will get it to you. And they're like, oh, so you're willing to talk to us? I'm like, well, yeah, I'm talking to you right now. What do you need? Just tell me. And they're like, well, we have an office. Our headquarters in Oregon is right next to the Portland airport. Since you're in your condo in San Francisco right now, why don't you just book a flight today, fly in, and then we can talk? And I'm immediately like, how do you know I'm in San Francisco? How do you know I'm in my condo right now in San Francisco? Because I went back and forth all the time. I mean, like, all the time. My schedule changed all the time. It wasn't like a routine, like on this day I'm here. It was just like wherever I was needed, I was at. And I'm like, it freaked me out. I'm like, they're watching me. They know where I'm at. Like immediately, I'm just like, whoa. And I'm like, I got to call my lawyers. Okay, bye. I'm just like, what is going on? So I hang up the phone, totally freaked out. I've never heard such words in my life. I do not know how to comprehend this. And my brain is not computing how
Mm-hmm.
serious this is. I don't even know. I am like shell shocked, right?
Right.
So yeah, I just like I don't even know. And I don't have human words to describe how I was feeling. It was just like I don't know. I don't understand what's going on. So I call my lawyer, my business lawyers, and I start explaining what just transpired. And they start freaking out. They're like, don't talk to me. Do not tell me anything. Definitely don't talk to the FBI. They're like, we're your business lawyers. This is as soon as FBI is involved, Saffron, this is criminal. You can't be talking to me because they could subpoena me because I am not a criminal lawyer. You're talking to me about criminal things. And I'm like, I'm not talking to you about criminal things. I don't even know what's going, what? I'm like, what are you talking? I'm totally freaking out. They're like, don't say anything. So they're like, what we're going to do, if you're okay with it, you got to give us permission. But we work with a really well-known criminal lawyer here in Portland, Oregon. If you want, we'll give them a call, see if they can talk to you today. And I'm like, okay, the criminal lawyer? Like, I'm just like, what? But yeah, sure. Okay, if that's who I have to talk to. And they're like, yeah, stay by your phone. If they're available, we're gonna have them call you as soon as possible. I'm like, okay. And they're like, do not talk to anybody, nobody, not a friend, not fam. Don't say anything to anybody. And I'm just like, what? So I get off the phone and probably about, it seemed like a lifetime, but it was probably 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later. My phone rings, I answer it. It's a criminal lawyer. And they're immediately like, so why don't you just tell me what you've done? And then that will let me know how I need to handle this and we'll go forward. And I'm like, what I've done, I don't, I don't even know why I'm talking to you, honestly. Like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I've done. And they're like, no, really, just tell me what you've done. Like, what did you do? And I'm like, I don't know. I really, really don't know. So that kind of went on for a little bit. They were a good criminal lawyer, not emotional, not nice, very, very to the point and direct and cold, which to be a good criminal lawyer, that's what you need to be. But I was just taken aback because I'm used to friendly lawyers and, oh, hi, how are you? What's going on? And that was not the case. It was very much
Right.
like, you obviously did something criminal. FBI is not going to be in your clinics raiding, like they had to get a warrant. So, like, what did you do? And I'm super just like, I wish I knew. I would tell you. I would be more
Yeah.
than happy to tell you to try to get help if I knew. So, in conversation in that conversation, they mentioned, they're like, well, be prepared to be arrested literally at any time. And I'm like, arrested? Like, I don't even have a speeding ticket on my record. What are you arrested? What are you talking about? And they're like, yeah, be prepared to be, they could be knocking down your door right now as we talk. And don't make a scene. Uh, just go along with it, because if you do make a scene, that's just going to make it worse. So be prepared. That's probably going to happen. And you're going to go to prison. But I need to find out what you did, because my job is to, make sure that you go for the least amount of time. I'm like, go to prison? What? Like, these are words that this is not in my life.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know people that go to prison. I've never done anything to go to prison. I don't, like, what are you, like, an hour ago, I'm just in my condo getting, thinking of going to work. Like, what are you, now you're telling me I'm going to be going to prison? So I said something like, oh, I can't, like, what? I can't go to jail. And then I like made it, I thought was a joke. I'm like, oh, I could go for maybe a day, but I'm like, what are you talking about? And they were very, very direct. And they're like, no, this is FBI, this is federal. You would not be going to jail, you'd be going to federal prison. And I'm like, what? Federal prison? What are you talking? And they're like, yeah. So I'm telling you this because you need to be prepared. And you can still go to dinner or walk outside, but be prepared. You're being followed, and literally
At any moment, you're getting arrested, basically.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you hang up from that call, and like, where are your emotions and your thoughts at? Just running wild. Like, what in the world is happening? So at what point did you get arrested?
So the crazy thing is I never was arrested.
Okay.
But I lived thinking at any, you're still panicking, like, and scared out of your mind, knowing literally I could have been arrested at any time. I never was. And I why? I don't know. I'm glad I wasn't. But I think they were following me, and it was not a risk, there
Yeah.
was really no. Yeah.
So, okay, obviously we know it's because you went up against the big bad insurance company.
Mhm.
I mean, this is anybody that is in tune with anything this day and age knows, you piss off the high people,
Yeah.
you better be glad you're not dead. Like, so they get the FBI involved, and they obviously, that was maybe a warning, a scare tactic, shut up or stop or whatever, and we're letting you know that this is how powerful we are. So
Yeah.
did the FBI ever question you?
So a long time passed. So my life crumbled. They shut that instant, that phone call, the minute they went and raided my business was over. In the
Okay.
medical industry, you could not have any tarnish. And that
Yeah.
was the biggest tarnish you could get.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was shut down that second. I had
Yeah.
no business. And I was devastated. And that alone took me forever to process. Just insane. My life, everything I ever worked for, everything I ever did, anything, was gone literally in a second. And gone. And my reputation, my name. Now I'm looked at as a criminal. I obviously did something wrong in other people's eyes,
Yeah.
So yeah. And so it was probably about 2.5 years. So I lost my house, which my lawyer warned me of, because they put so many, the government put so many liens on it. And they did that on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my lawyer, a criminal lawyer, warned me. He was like, they're going to put so many liens on your house, you're going to lose it. And I was just devastated. I'm like, my house? I mean, and they're like, yeah, I mean, just, you're going to lose it. You can't sell it because they'll take all your money, that anything you gain from it, you can't, like, you're at a loss. They're going to go after it. They're probably going to go after your car. They're going to go after everything. They did not go after my car. That was the only thing that they actually did not take. They tried, but they couldn't. But anyways, I was left with nothing, no money. Everything was gone. Anything that I did have access to as far as finances was spent on a criminal lawyer, which is not cheap. Nor should it be if they're a good criminal lawyer. They're trying to save your life. But so all my money went to that, fighting this. And so I had no money. I lost my house. I lost everything, literally everything. And probably about 2.5 years into that, I started another career because my criminal lawyer was like, I don't know how long, either they're going to arrest you right away, throw you in prison, get this over with, or they're going to drag this out. And then after a little bit, he was like, it looks like they're dragging it out. So there again, you could be arrested at any time. So don't do a job that you have to travel, because then you're a flight risk. Don't do a job that you're going to invest too much in, because they could arrest you literally at any time. So like, your choice, but go do something, but don't do something too amazing, basically. I ended up starting a completely another career. I was really successful at it. And I was planning on opening a business in that particular career. It was still medical. And I was hopeful that since it had been so long, like 2.5 years at this point, that I was not going to be actually charged. Maybe I would have restitution, maybe some kind of probation. All things I learned from my lawyer. I didn't know what any of this meant.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, well, about 2.5 years in, and this is not hearing anything, like just nothing.
Yeah.
And they came, it was actually on my birthday. They let me know that they were charging me with federal charges, and they were definitely trying to get me to go to prison, at federal prison. And my life just got destroyed all over again. 3 years into it, so another 6 months, was when there was the legal hearing with the judge and everything. And right before then, probably maybe a month before that, the actual judgment, I talked with the FBI. That was the first time I had a meeting face to face with the FBI. Of course, my lawyer was there, was not by myself. And what they were doing is they were making me do a plea deal. I did not have a choice. They'll say I had a choice, right? But I didn't. It was either you do the plea deal, or we're going to come after you way more than we have already. And so without going into all the details, that was very, very scary. It was already scary what was happening to me, and to be threatened that if I don't sign this piece of paper, not only my life they're going to come after me more, but also they were threatening to come after family members and friends and anyone that was connected to anything ever with my business. And that was just really scary. And so I was just like, it took a long time. I didn't just immediately sign it. I had to really think about it. But my lawyer was like, yeah, so you're going to want to sign this because it's going to be way, way worse for you. It's going to cost you more money, and it's going to be way worse, and we're not going to win. There's just no way you can win. I think it's something like, I don't know the exact, but it's something like 99% of people who are charged, from the federal government.
Yeah, you don't win.
Lose.
So what were they charging you with?
So initially they had something like, this was like in the beginning, they had something like 13. I've gotten rid of all the paperwork because it was so scary at the time, but it was something like 13 charges. The minimum, if those all 13 charges stuck, would be a minimum of 30 years in federal prison. Maximum would be like for life, and over what? Like, what are you talking about? And so what the plea deal is because I was like, this is all BS. I am not agreeing to any of this. But I had to. So the plea deal was to medical fraud. It was kind of a miscellaneous medical fraud, nothing specific saying you did this specific thing and that's medical fraud. It was kind of a generic medical fraud charge, and then it was tax evasion. I never evaded taxes. I was on a payment plan with the IRS. My taxes were a little bit larger than I expected. And so I was on a payment plan with them. It was going to be paid off. If nothing had happened, it would have been paid off probably in about 6 months. It was definitely not tax evasion. But I mean, they can say whatever they want. So I had to agree to that. And so not having a choice with a heavy heart, because to me that was lying. That was like the only criminal thing I thought I did wrong was signing that plea deal, but I literally didn't have a choice, and I signed it. And then it went to and they also in that meeting were trying to get me to say bad things about other fellow people in the industry. They were trying to go after other people that did similar stuff that I did. I didn't know anything to tell them. So I wasn't hiding anything, but I really didn't know anything, and I just thought that was really a scumbag move. Like, you're doing this to me, and you're trying to pull me into trying to get this done to other people that I know. Like, you're nuts. But I really, it was going to be additional federal charges if I lied about it. And I really didn't know anything bad that anyone I knew was doing. They were straight up professional business people. So
Yeah.
I couldn't help them with that, but they tried to get me to rat out other people. And I was just like, this is straight out of a movie or Dateline, or, like, what?
Yeah.
I can't believe this is happening to me. So the court date came, and this was not from my lawyer. My lawyer was very clear that I was going to be going to prison, that I needed to be prepared for that. And, hopefully it was the least amount of time as possible. In my mind, I'm like, because I wrote this letter to the judge, stating that I started a new career. It was still in the medical business. I was still helping people. Please don't do this to me, basically, because if you do, I can't continue in this particular career path I'm restarting, and I'm only helping the community. It wouldn't help anyone by taking me out of the community. And, I can do community work. I didn't care about, I could volunteer. I just really loved helping people. And I was trying to explain what I was doing. And, why would you do this to me even more? I've already been destroyed. I can't do the business I was in anymore. Like, I've been completely destroyed, and I've already started over in something new. So let's not destroy me more. Right. And so I was really hopeful in my own mind that the judge would totally understand that and wouldn't sentence me to federal prison and destroy my life even more than what already happened. But that was not the case. So the judge gave me the least amount for the charges, which the miscellaneous medical fraud charge and tax evasion charge, the very minimum, which was I was sentenced to 22 months in federal prison, and at the Dublin FCA in California, and which is the whole story with that. It made national news. But I was sentenced there, and then I was sentenced to 3 years probation and a very large restitution. And there you go. And I was just like, in my mind, I'm like, well, at least I got sentenced to the least amount. But I was so shocked. I could not comprehend that I just got sentenced to federal prison, that I was going to be going to federal prison after everything that's already happened to me, everything destroyed, everything taken away from me. I have nothing. I'm starting over from scratch. I'm living at my parents' house because I lost everything,
Yeah.
everything. And it was either that or living out of my car, and my parents weren't going to let me live out of my car. And thankfully I had parents that could help me, and so
Yeah.
I lived with them. And, and it was just like, you guys have completely abolished me, right? And I'm still starting over, and you're not even going to let me start over. You're making me go to now federal prison for, like, in my mind, made up stuff to fit their narrative. They just make it up, fits their narrative. There you go. And I'm like, I'm not a number. I'm a real person. You're actually destroying a real person's life. Like, how can you sleep at night? That's how I felt. That's how I looked at it. That's how I still feel. And so, anyways, I ended up going to, I had to turn myself in. I went to California, um, and which that alone is just gut wrenching. Like, you're making it. So I live in Oregon, which is on the right next to California, but it's still like it was a 12, 13-hour drive to get there. And so that's just the craziest thing of literally driving, 12, 13 hours to go turn yourself in to federal. I mean, that alone is just like, I'm turning myself into federal prison. That's insane.
Right.
So, yeah. So I end up going into turning myself in, and the I didn't know what to expect. Um, I was told, like, because I was sentenced to a camp, so I was told, like, oh, camp isn't like as bad as like the normal prison and this sort of thing. Not true, not in my experience. I was sentenced to a prison. It was definitely a prison. The first 3 weeks, they threw me in solitary confinement, wouldn't tell me what was happening or when I would come out. It was horrible. The guards were extremely abusive. Uh, Later on, I found out they were extremely sexually abusive, mentally abusive, verbally abusive, just abusive in every which way. Living conditions were horrible in this facility. It was just not a good place. Not that any prison is a good place, but this was like really bad. And so I was there for um, 7 months, and COVID. It was during COVID, and COVID was actually running rampant within that particular prison. And I mean, women were getting sent to the hospital like every day. And so they started taking inmates that did not have long sentences and were not there for any violence, and taking them out. And so I was one of those. So that's why I was only there for 7 months. 7 months too long, but
Yeah.
7 months. And then they put me in a federal halfway house,
Mhm.
uh, which was horrible because it ended up being a facility that housed, I think, about 300 individuals, and there was only maybe about 10 of us that were women. They were all men, federal inmate men there, and these were not business professionals that were there for white collar crime. These were rapists and pedophiles and bank robbers and gang members, and like really really scary dudes that have not seen or had been around women for years. And that was not a safe environment, and I don't even know how that was legal. And that was like probably worse than the actual federal prison. But I was there, and I ended up getting a job because you could work. You couldn't leave unless you had a job, and then you could leave just for that particular job, and then you had to come back. So I got a job at a chiropractic clinic that did not take medical insurance, so I was allowed to work there. I can't do any type of at the time I couldn't do any type of medical billing or anything because I was still in custody. And so, but I could work in a medical clinic that only took cash,
Right.
self, they call it self pay. So that was approved. And so I was able to work in this chiropractic clinic and kind of do that. And I ended up being there for 8 months at this halfway house that were all men there. And it was really scary. So I was there for 8 months. And then I was on home confine or not home confinement, probation, which is kind of like home confinement, but it's not. It's a little different. But I was on probation for 3 years. and during that time, I wrote my book. And at the end of writing the book, so at the end, it was a year ago, December 2024, the Dublin Federal Correction Institute that I was at got shut down permanently due to sexual abuse and rape.
Wow.
And yeah, the warden is in federal prison right now. I think he got sentenced to I don't know the exact, but I think about 7 years. He was doing it, and so he allowed all the guards to do it. Most of the guards were men in a women's facility, which is crazy, but the majority of the guards were men, and it was allowed. The chaplain was
Stop
sentenced
it.
also. Yeah, the chaplain was sentenced to about, I think, 7 years as well, for rape, just with multiple women. And in these cases, it wasn't like, it'd be bad enough if it was just one, but it was
Right.
multiple. And they had, I had two friends there that were sexually assaulted. One in particular, well, they both were multiple times. It wasn't a one time ordeal. One of them, though, she was a huge influence and help in them actually shutting down and getting some of these officers charged, because a lot of what happened to her actually was caught on video. And
Wow.
yeah. And so they needed her, though, even though it was on video, she had to still say, under oath, that's me, and that was that officer. Even though they have it on video, she still had to participate for them to charge. And so it's just been crazy.
So let
And
me
yeah.
ask you a question. Do you feel like you obviously know all this happened because you went up against this big insurance company. Do you feel like they had something to do with you being sent to that particular prison? Do you think
Oh,
that
I'm sure.
their
Yeah.
reach is big enough for that? So your whole life has been terrorized because you pissed off the
Completely.
wrong insurance company. And, you're in this prison. I actually said on a recent podcast that I was on, I was actually talking with Travis Ritchie, who I think you know.
Oh,
I said
yes.
to him, I said, prisons are built for men by men, and they were never meant to house women. And
Mm-mm.
but yet we incarcerate women at a higher rate than we incarcerate men, but we've never made the correct accommodations to house women. So you've experienced all of this, and now you're on the other side. You're off probation.
Yeah.
What is
Just
your
got released. Yeah.
what is your goal?
Thank
What is
goodness.
your yeah, what is your goal? What is your mission? What is Saffron like? What are you running for? Like what is it that you're looking to like imprint on the world now?
Absolutely. So I'm working on a few different things. I my passion is to get a nonprofit started. I've built the foundation of it, but it's, just getting it going and getting it started
Yeah.
is to help women coming out of the system get good employment, not just employment.
Yeah.
Because I've seen that a lot, where a lot of the employment as a felon that you get is just an extension of the prison system.
Yeah.
You're treated badly, you're paid badly, uh, you're basically abused,
Yeah.
and you're just trying to work and get back on your feet. So when I say employment, I mean actually like you could do a career employment, like good employment,
Yeah.
and helping with that, helping with education, if they wanted to advance their education. I've seen a huge lack in that, or just even like learning a trade, something along those lines, helping with that, helping with housing. I've seen and experienced, a lot of women coming out of the system, so they're not getting paid properly. They don't have a
Yeah.
good employment. They don't have an education. They don't have anything to fall back on or to add to. And now they can't afford decent housing. I mean,
Yeah.
housing is expensive almost everywhere
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And so they fall back into patterns of places and people that got them into trouble, got them into prison, only because they're only falling back to that because they need help, right?
Right.
Who wouldn't?
Right.
And not everyone has a family like I do. You know,
Yeah.
I could see, I never thought I was privileged, right? Like
Mhm.
whatever, I've always worked, I've had to do my own thing. But going through this, I could really see like, oh, okay, I'm extremely privileged. I'm white, I'm educated, I have a family that's and friends that are willing to take
Help.
care of me if I
Yeah.
need it, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of women don't have that. And when you're coming out of the system and you're still being judged, it's very hard. It's very hard.
Yeah.
So I really did not realize that until I went through it and I witnessed it and I seen it happening to many, many women and that were trying so hard to get out and they just got pulled right back in, not because they were trying to. So that's really influenced me to want to do this nonprofit
Yeah.
and really help with that. Um, Also, I'm working on right now, trying to get capital, working on getting an investor to start a for-profit, a regular business. The chiropractic clinic that I worked for when I was in the halfway house was a franchise and they have close to 1,000 locations nationwide. It's a really great company, and I'm like, I could do this, and I can do it legally because they don't take insurance, they don't
Right.
take anything. So I'm like, this would be a really great opportunity that I could start. I have so much experience in medical clinics and running them and managing them and owning them. And I worked for the company for about 4 years, so I know it inside and out. And it would be, they helped me. They hired me knowing my background. I was still in the reentry halfway house,
Yeah.
and I was still technically a federal inmate and they hired me and they let me work the front desk, be a receptionist, and I'm like, that was so great for me. And wouldn't that be amazing if I could provide that type of job, that type of environment for other women? And what a great opportunity too to put on their resume too. If they didn't want to stay in that, if they put in a couple years to be in a medical clinic as a medical receptionist, there's so
Yeah.
many doors open for them. And
Yeah.
so I want to be able to provide many other type of jobs, of course, but that's my initial where I can start a business. I know the business inside and out, and I can at the same time help start helping these women. So I'm working on that capital right now, working on trying to get that investor to get that started. Um, and then I just published my book in August, end of August, I think. It got published, and so that's kind of exciting. Just getting that information out there, trying to also use any profit from that towards the nonprofit, and just
Yeah.
trying to help these women. And what I was telling someone the other day is I had always did work to help people because I love helping people, and so I always did did that. But I did it for a paycheck, right? Like I would go to help people to get paid, and that's
Hmm.
not a bad thing. That's what you do, right? You go to
Yeah.
work. Hopefully, it's something you like doing, and you do it for a paycheck. I look at it completely different from what's happened to me now. Now I want to go make that paycheck so that I can help people.
Yeah.
So it's a completely different, it just a different view on it. I am just passionate about wanting to try to help. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of really great resources out there. There's lot of really great nonprofits that already exist that are helping a lot in a lot of different states. And so um, I'm just excited to kind of, join that team and really trying to help,
Yeah.
because there can't be too many people
Yeah.
helping. There's just so many people out there that are struggling and they don't need to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on and telling your story. Man, it's a crazy story. And
Yes.
anybody that would like to read her book, I will link in the links to her book down below for you to purchase her book if you would like to read the full story. And that's basically it. Do you have any final thoughts, closing remarks?
Um, Other than just whatever happens to you in life, you can turn it around. You can make something super negative positive, even if it's really, really hard. And trust me, I get it. But
Yes.
you can make anything negative positive, and I think everyone has the ability to be resilient and just keep moving forward no matter what.
Yes, amen to that. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Saffron. Thank you
Thank
guys for
you.
tuning in to the Fenced In podcast with Jennifer Rogers. As I told you earlier, this episode is being sponsored by the You Within. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share for more content like this. And one final thought, never forget that no darkness can outshine the light within. Jennifer Rogers signing off with the Fenced In podcast. Okay.